The wind howls across the barren landscape, carrying with it the scent of death and the promise of survival. In a world where every sunrise brings new dangers, where saber-toothed predators stalk the shadows and the next meal is never guaranteed, something extraordinary is about to happen that will forever change the course of human evolution. Kael crouches beside the still form of his mother, her weathered hands finally at rest, after a lifetime of gathering, crafting, and protecting. The flickering firelight dances across her face, casting shadows that seem to bring her back to life for fleeting moments. Around him, the small band of early humans huddles in their cave shelter, their eyes reflecting a grief that runs deeper than instinct, deeper than the simple recognition of loss that other animals experience. This is different. This is something new. For the first time in Earth's history, a species is about to do something that will separate them forever from every other creature that has ever lived. They are about to bury their dead, not just to hide the body from scavengers, not just to prevent disease, but because something within their evolving minds tells them this matters. This means something profound. The year is roughly 100,000 BCE, and humanity stands at a crossroads between their animal past and their symbolic future. The world around them is unforgiving. Massive glaciers creep across continents, mammoth herds thunder across frozen plains, and volcanic ash darkens skies for months at a time. Resources are scarce, survival is uncertain, and death is as common as the changing seasons. Yet here in this moment, something miraculous is stirring in the human consciousness. Kael's sister Nera approaches with hands full of red ochre, the iron-rich clay they've used for body painting during rituals and celebrations. But tonight, the pigment serves a different purpose. As she begins to carefully apply the crimson powder to their mother's skin, creating intricate patterns that mirror the stars above, she is participating in humanity's first act of symbolic thought made manifest in death. The other members of their band watch in silence, but their minds are racing. Old Thorn, the group's storyteller, feels something stirring within him, a need to speak about the woman who is gone, to preserve not just her body, but her memory. Young Asha, barely more than a child, notices how the red ochre makes her grandmother look like she's sleeping beneath a sunset, and for the first time in her life, she grasps that some things continue even after death. This is the birth of symbolic consciousness, emerging not from abstract philosophy, but from the raw, desperate need to make sense of loss. What these early humans don't realize is that by choosing to bury their dead with intention, with ceremony, with symbolic meaning, they are triggering a cognitive revolution that will reshape their brains, their societies, and their entire evolutionary trajectory. The act of symbolic burial is about to become the catalyst for everything that makes us uniquely human: language, art, religion, culture, and the profound ability to think about things that exist beyond the immediate present. As Kael begins to dig the grave, his movements are deliberate, almost ritualistic. Each handful of earth removed is not just practical preparation, but an act of meaning-making. His mind, like the minds of his companions, is beginning to work in ways it never has before. He's not just thinking about where to place the body or how deep to dig. He's thinking about what this means, about honoring something intangible, about creating a connection between the world of the living and the world of the dead. The implications are staggering. In performing this first symbolic burial, these early humans are essentially rewiring their own brains. The neural pathways that allow for symbolic thinking, the ability to let one thing represent another, to assign meaning beyond immediate function, are strengthening with each ritual gesture. The red ochre isn't just clay, it's the color of life, of blood, of the setting sun. The grave isn't just a hole, it's a gateway, a final resting place, a sacred space. But the transformation goes deeper than individual cognition. As the burial ceremony unfolds, something profound is happening to the social fabric of the group. They are bonding not just through shared survival needs, but through shared meaning, shared symbols, shared understanding of concepts that transcend the immediate and physical world around them. Nera places a carefully crafted stone tool beside the body, not because the dead woman will need it, but because the tool represents her skill, her contribution to the group's survival, her identity as a master craftsperson. This simple gesture marks the birth of human culture as we know it, the practice of creating and sharing symbolic meaning that binds communities together across time and space. The other groups of early humans scattered across Africa and beyond are facing the same evolutionary pressures, the same cognitive developments, the same stirring of symbolic consciousness. Some have already begun their own burial practices, while others are just beginning to feel the pull toward ritual and meaning. This is not an isolated incident, but part of a species-wide transformation that will define humanity's future. As the ceremony concludes and earth covers the carefully arranged body, the participants don't simply return to their daily routines. They carry with them something new, memories charged with symbolic meaning, stories that will be told and retold, and most importantly, the cognitive capacity to think symbolically about everything in their world. The development of symbolic burial practices is setting in motion a cascade of evolutionary changes that will accelerate human development at an unprecedented pace. The same mental processes that allow these early humans to see a grave as more than a hole, red ochre as more than clay, and death as more than the end of biological function will soon enable them to develop complex language systems where sounds represent abstract concepts, create art that captures not just visual reality, but emotional and spiritual truths, and form intricate social structures based on shared beliefs and values. Within generations, these enhanced cognitive abilities will spread throughout human populations, favored by natural selection because groups with stronger symbolic thinking can better cooperate, communicate, and adapt to changing environments. The humans who can work together, not just for immediate survival but for shared symbolic goals, protecting sacred spaces, maintaining ritual knowledge, passing down cultural wisdom, will outcompete those who cannot. But the transformation is not without its challenges. As human consciousness expands to encompass symbolic thinking, it also opens the door to uniquely human forms of suffering. For the first time, a species becomes capable of existential dread, of worrying about meaning and purpose, of feeling the weight of mortality not just as a biological fact, but as a profound philosophical challenge. Kael, standing over his mother's grave in the pale light of dawn, experiences something no other animal ever has: the simultaneous burden and gift of symbolic consciousness. He grieves not just the loss of a provider and protector, but the loss of accumulated wisdom, shared memories, and irreplaceable relationships. Yet he also feels something that transcends grief, a sense of connection to something larger than himself, a recognition that this ritual has bound him more deeply to his companions and to the mysterious forces that govern life and death. The ripple effects of this cognitive revolution will be felt for millennia. The capacity for symbolic burial leads directly to the development of complex languages capable of discussing abstract concepts, religious and philosophical systems that attempt to explain existence and meaning, artistic traditions that preserve and transmit cultural knowledge, and social institutions that can coordinate large groups of people around shared symbolic commitments. Archaeological evidence from sites across Africa and the Middle East reveals the gradual emergence of increasingly sophisticated burial practices among early human populations. Bodies are positioned in specific orientations, covered with red ochre, accompanied by tools and ornaments, and sometimes buried with evidence of flowers or other organic materials that suggest ritual significance. Each site tells a story of humans grappling with mortality and meaning, developing the symbolic thinking that will define our species. But perhaps most remarkably, the practice of symbolic burial also transforms how humans relate to their environment and to each other. Once capable of seeing symbolic meaning in death, they begin to see it everywhere, in the patterns of stars, the changing seasons, the behavior of animals, the properties of stones and plants. The world becomes not just a collection of resources and threats, but a rich tapestry of interconnected meanings waiting to be discovered and interpreted. As night falls over the ancient landscape, Kael's band gathers around their fire to share food and stories. The conversation inevitably turns to the woman they have just buried, but now their words carry new weight. They speak not just of her practical contributions, but of her wisdom, her kindness, her place in the web of relationships that holds their community together. They are creating the first oral traditions, the first shared narratives that will bind future generations to their ancestors and to each other. The cognitive leap from practical burial to symbolic burial represents one of the most significant transitions in human evolution, comparable to the development of tool use or the control of fire. It marks the moment when humans became capable of creating meaning rather than simply responding to environmental pressures, when we developed the ability to live not just in the physical world, but in rich, shared worlds of symbols and significance. This transformation also sets the stage for humanity's eventual domination of the planet. Species that can coordinate their behavior around abstract symbols and shared meanings can undertake projects of unprecedented scale and complexity. They can build civilizations, conduct scientific investigations, create works of art that speak across centuries, and develop technologies that reshape the world around them. The early humans performing these first burial rituals have no way of knowing that they are laying the foundation for everything, from agriculture to space exploration, from written language to digital communication, from religious institutions to scientific methodology. They are simply responding to an inner compulsion to treat death as meaningful, to honor the dead with ceremony and symbol, rather than simply disposing of bodies for practical reasons. Yet in following this compulsion, they are unleashing the full potential of human consciousness and setting our species on a trajectory that will make us unlike any other creature in Earth's history. The symbolic mind, first awakened by the ritual of burial, will eventually enable humans to transcend the immediate limitations of their biology and environment, to imagine possible futures and work collectively to bring them into existence. As dawn breaks over the prehistoric landscape, Kael and his companions face a world that looks the same as it did the day before, but they themselves have been fundamentally changed. They carry within their minds new capacities for meaning-making, new ways of understanding their relationships to each other and to the cosmos, and new possibilities for cooperation and cultural development that will drive human evolution forward at an accelerating pace. The story of symbolic burial is ultimately the story of humanity's awakening to its own potential, the moment when we became capable not just of surviving in the world, but of creating worlds of meaning and significance that transcend the boundaries of individual existence. In learning to honor our dead with ceremony and symbol, we learn to become truly human, and in becoming truly human, we set ourselves on a path toward transforming not just our own species, but the entire planet we call home. The flickering flames of their fire will eventually die down, but the spark of symbolic consciousness ignited by this ancient burial ritual will burn for millennia, illuminating humanity's journey from prehistoric survival to the infinite possibilities that define our future. In the end, the question is not just how symbolic burial changed human evolution, but how it made evolution itself symbolic, a process driven not just by genetic adaptation, but by the conscious creation of meaning, purpose, and shared human understanding that connects us across the vast expanse of time.